Hey friends, Liz here to invite you to check out our Patreon. That's where we publish extra episodes every other week, and that's also where we will continue any series we're reading. So if you liked our coverage of ACOTAR, Guild, High Mountain Court, or Fourth Wing, check out our Patreon to continue those series along with us. We also let you know what we're reading each month in advance in case you want to read along with us too. There might be a few other surprises throughout the year for our patrons as well. You can get all of this for just $3 a month, so check it out and we would really appreciate the support. Anyway, on to today's episode. But he says something like, even if you go back to Miami, you're still mine. And she's like, right. Always. And I was like, it's been 10 days. Y'all need to fucking chill, man.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
So Liz, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Royally Not Ready by Meghan Quinn. This was published in 2022, and it is the first in an ongoing series, currently with 2 out. I was trying to see if it was just a duology, but I couldn't tell. This book is 438 pages long, and that's a longie. Now, the cover, y'all. The cover I've been seeing is the one that comes up on my Kindle app, and it's this dark blue background that's very cartoonish, and there's this heart in smoke coming out of the back of a plane, pretty basic travel-y. And then this little country with a flag in it. What bothered me first, I have a couple notes on this. The first thing that bothered me is every time, when you open your Kindle, it flashes the cover, but it doesn't stay on the cover. It just kind of shows it you really briefly when you open it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what mine does. This country, not when you look at the cover closely, but every time it flashes, it looks like Australia to me, and it bugs me.
Yeah, I can see that. Could definitely see that.
The second thing that I hate is I was looking up the cover to talk about it, and there's another cover that seems to be more common. That's that exact thing I just described. But then there's a dude in a white chair, he's gonna give an interview, just superimposed on this weird cartoony background, a photograph of a whole dude. It comes up, it's the second result on Amazon Images, on Google Images. I thought it was gonna be a TikTok where you can cap cut the thing in front of it. No, that's the cover. Why?
Okay, yeah. So you know how I feel about real people on the covers of books, but this person in particular, one, that is not how I picture Keller. I assume that's supposed to be Keller.
It's gotta be. Or it's King Theo and he's just really hot.
Oh God, ew. But there's also something wild going on with his hand, right? Because it's touching his chin.
Yeah, and his hand is bigger than his head.
That's the thing. It's ginormous, and I don't know why. It's kind of it gives the same feeling as the old pictures that you see of Abraham Lincoln, where his hands are fucking huge because those are the things that move.
Yes.
It's not an appropriate size, I think. It's just weird.
It's weird, and it's just his eyes are kind of closed. He's almost in a thinker pose, but not quite.
Yeah.
Also, I've just discovered is that there's an illustrated collection of this book.
Yeah, I hate every single thing about this.
Yeah, it's a terrible cover. We pick our books based on things that we want to read, but also a lot of TikTok and Instagram. And if I had seen either one of these covers, but especially the one with Keller on it, I would have vetoed this book immediately.
Yeah. Okay, the illustrated version is not good either. It's high school level art.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, and it's weird pencil sketches. Like
Yeah.
I'm
what
looking
is
at this one
happening
that just has her. Oh, I wish I could make this picture bigger. They're terrible. It's terrible. The proportions are weird.
Sometimes
It's
she's
just
a blonde. Sometimes she's a brunette. It's hard to know.
also, I could not tell you what she looks like.
Okay, so I couldn't tell you what Keller looks like, actually, because I skipped over his brief description in the first chapter, and so I don't got it.
I don't really think we get much. We get that he has cleavage and big muscles and tattoos.
Yeah, that's about
And I
it.
only know what color her eyes are. I couldn't tell you anything else about either of them.
Well, okay, so we'll get there when we get there, but she's got white blonde hair.
Oh.
Yeah. Apparently it runs in the family.
That makes a sense. That makes a sense. That makes sense because
sense.
So I was actually picturing Keller kind of like Thor, and I think it's just because she kept calling him a Viking.
Well, and Timmy Tuna refers to him as Thor, so I was like, okay, Thorish.
Yeah, so I kind of pictured him having long hair and like pulled back in like a ponytail, like a low pony.
Yeah, a low pony situation.
Yeah. Not this like millionaire businessman on this cover.
So cringe.
All right, so let's get into it. Katie, take it away.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So she is on Kindle Unlimited. Amazing. We love that.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Sorry.
This book is a longie, so we're going to split it into 2 parts, about 200 pages each. So part 1 will cover chapters 1 through 13, which I think brings us to just over 50%. It's like 52%. And then part 2 will cover chapters 14 onward. So let's just get into it. We'll start off by saying that this book is told from the first person point of view, from both Keller, our male main character, and Lily, our female main character. And we kind of switch back and forth between the two of them. So in the prologue, we start with the perspective of Keller, and we quickly learn that he is the secretary to a king who is in failing health. This king, King Theodore, summons Keller to his rooms to talk business. He tells Keller that he wants him to find his American granddaughter and says that without her, they are jeopardizing their entire country because of a foreign power named Arkham. This is because all of the rest of King Theo's kids are not fit to take the throne after him for various reasons, which we'll get into later. The king also tells Keller that he needs him to train her to be ready to take over the country.
I can't read the word Arkham and not think about Batman.
Same. Girl, same.
Why are we naming anything Arkham? It's like naming something Middle Earth. Like, I need you to come up with a new name.
Yeah, I also, like, I'm fine with having kind of a fictional small island, like the equivalent of being an heir to the throne of, like, Andorra or something. Fine.
Genovia.
The Princess of Genovia. Yeah, we should say that this is just Princess Diaries with smut, which, like,
That's
come on.
all this book is. Yeah.
But when they start bringing in the like the political thing of like Arkham taking over, I'm like, is this like when 2 chihuahuas get in a fight, or are we just redrawing the entire map of Europe here?
Yeah, if you're gonna, this book is, it doesn't ask a lot of its reader, so I don't need the political intrigue. Like,
I really don't.
It was enough to be like, we don't have any other heirs, you're the last heir, and if like you don't, then this line doesn't continue. Like, I don't need to know about like the big baddie Arkham that's like waiting in the wings.
Right, or just say that like we have an agreement that Great Britain will take over because we're right there.
Yeah.
Great. And we don't want that because we'll be assimilated. Cool. That's all I need.
Yeah. That'd be fine. That'd be fine. I also want to point out that the narration in this I don't super like. So it's it starts heavy in this prologue and then it kind of fades out. It does that thing where it breaks the fourth wall, where like Keller will talk directly to the reader. And I just never really like that. And it kind of goes away where it turns more to like him talking to himself or just like having asides. But the prologue is like, and I gotta tell you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't have to tell me anything. I'm reading this book.
Yeah, it starts out really folksy. And that rubbed me the wrong way too. But I was so distracted by the fact that the king is asking his personal secretary to do all of this shit that I was like, I can only focus on one thing at a time to be horrified by.
Also, is he dying or does he just have like pneumonia? Because I can't tell how
Okay.
sick he is.
Okay, and that comes up later. It's not giving anything away, but like part of the reason that King Theo says that he doesn't want to see Lily when she finally gets there is he doesn't want her to see him like sick. I'm like, homeboy, do you think you're like getting out of this alive? Because I think you'd be the only one.
Right. But then, because I was watching out for the continuity of this, it is kind of like his cough gets better. So I'm like, are you getting better?
Are you dying or not? Is she going to take the throne tomorrow or not? Also, okay, this is a question that I have for this entire book, and I don't know if we get it answered because I haven't finished the book or not, or I haven't finished the book yet. But if Theo can have a female heir, why can't the queen take over?
Okay. I had that question too, because we'll get into the family tree here pretty quickly, but his firstborn is a girl and was first in line for the throne. So I'm like, okay, cool. So this wasn't like the male heir thing. But yeah, why? What's her name? Katya? Something like that. Why would she not be the next one?
At least until Lily's like more ready. Like there's just such a artificial like urgency put on this whole thing. They're like 2 months. You're going to be ready to go in 2 months. I'm like, you're not.
You're going to take this girl
actually.
who grew up in Miami and train her how to be the regent of a whole country she's never heard of in 2 months? Okay.
Have fun with that. Like, okay.
There's no way. There's no way. Good luck.
Yeah. So as you may have guessed, this book doesn't ask a lot intellectually of its readers. And I just, maybe it's the headspace that I'm in right now or whatever. I'm just having a hard time relating to any of the characters. So if it sounds like I chose violence with this book, I apologize. I'm having a great time. I want to be clear. It's fun to read. It is not a good book.
Exactly. It's similar to what we said about Killer Beauty. Like it's a great time. I'm having fun. I want to know what happens. I'm not going to sing its praises. I might recommend it because it's entertaining.
Correct.
But it's not good.
Correct. So chapter 1 starts with Lily now. And Lily is sitting on a truck in Miami Beach that sells bikinis. And somehow she is also hosting a wet t-shirt contest. I think there's like a water gun on the truck.
I didn't ask any questions.
I asked far too many questions of this book and I am left wanting. So anyway, she's doing this with the assistance of her friend and coworker, Timmy Tuna. She describes her truck as, quote, the Splash Wagon, South Beach, Miami's one and only bikini and swimsuit store on wheels. Cool.
How did you get into this enterprise? Okay, sorry.
So she briefly does a drive-by about that. She's like, at some point, I didn't write it down, so I'm just going to talk about it now. She's like ruminating to us about how like her mother tried to send her to college and it wasn't for her, but after the death of her parents, she tried it for a semester and then she like immediately went into business selling bikinis on Miami Beach. I'm like, that is a wild origin story.
Also, we said this in the debrief, but she had to sell or lose all of her parents' belongings. So with what money did you purchase this bikini truck?
Well, yeah, I have so many questions. But she did say that Timmy Tuna comes from a rich family, so I'm wondering
tuna
if it's
heir?
like, yeah, the tuna heir.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm wondering if she somehow swindled him into like opening this store with her and like fronting all the cash, but she's a co-owner. I don't know. We don't get details.
Yeah.
We're asking far too many questions.
It'll never matter. Timmy ceases to exist very fast.
Yeah, very fast for something that she cares so deeply about, quote unquote.
Her only
ceases to be a
friend.
problem.
Her only friend.
Her only friend. Yeah. And okay, I was unclear until far too long into the book on whether he was like a straight man or not, which I guess doesn't really matter, but it was weird. I didn't know the nature of their relationship.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And I assume from a conversation they have later that he's gay.
Same. Yeah.
Not confirmed, but
or he's at least comfortable talking about the hotness of other men. So maybe he's bi. I don't know.
Yeah. They are not in a sexual relationship. Maybe.
At least right now.
It's still unclear.
Still unclear. Anyway. Lily announces the winner of the wet t-shirt contest, which is a 30-something-year-old man with a beer gut.
Classy.
And then she works the crowd as she tells us she normally does. She's giving tourists recommendations, answering questions about the local area, etc. One of the people that she runs into while doing this is a man in a suit with an English accent. Beyond the English accent, he stands out because it's in South Beach, Miami, and he's wearing a suit. He tells Lily that he needs to speak with her privately, and her inner monologue is immediately like, yeah, no, thank you, that's weird. But he insists and tells her that it's about her mother, Margaret. He tells her to meet him at the Moxie Hotel at 8 o'clock for more information. Just as he leaves, he tells Lily, oh, and make sure you wear something decent, because she's in a bikini top and, like, short shorts.
It's lime green.
Yeah. So it doesn't take a genius to know that this is Keller coming to get Lily, who is the long-lost granddaughter. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Just immediately. So Lily does end up going to the hotel and waits in the lobby, in which she describes as a very low-cut dress. Eventually, another man in another suit approaches her and says that she has to follow him. But she's like, no, I'm not going anywhere unless I see some identification and the other guy from earlier. So this guy fetches the guy who we know is Keller. And he shows her his ID and then gives her his phone for some reason, which she then uses to call her friend Timmy Tuna so they can get a lock on the device to ensure her safety.
Just use her own phone.
I have so many questions about that.
And also, why would you just hand a strange woman your phone? Also, you're the secretary to the king. Like, isn't there, like, confidential stuff on that? You don't know her?
That seems like a security breach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a security breach for them to be able to lock your phone regardless of whether or not they had access to what's in it. Like, I'm sure you have to go to secret locations. Like, this was so weird.
It was so weird. And also, again, who is Timmy Tuna and why does he know how to do this?
I know. Well, okay. And so this is just indicative of, like, one of many examples in this book where you're giving me far too much detail and information that I don't need. And it ends up, I ask more questions.
Yeah. And I think they were trying to set her up as being, like, savvy and self-protective, but it's just like this wild thread of information instead.
Yeah, truly.
That I didn't need.
Frankly.
Also, why would you go to this meeting alone? I wouldn't have done that.
I wouldn't have either. I would have brought a friend. I would have been like, no fucking way. Whatever you can have to say to me, you can say to my friend, Timmy Tuna.
Timmy Tuna, my only friend, Mr. Tuna.
Who I have a really hard time not picturing as a stuffed animal.
Okay, because she only calls him Timmy Tuna. It is one word. I mean, it's written as two words, but, like,
yeah,
it's Timmy Tuna.
It's a title. It's never just Timmy or Mr. Tuna. It's Timmy Tuna.
Yeah, I'm not even confident his name is Timmy. I think she just likes alliteration. He's like John or something.
I'm not convinced his government name is Timmy Tuna at all.
It's
Timothy
not. There's
Tuna?
no.
No, thank you.
Timothy Tuna the Third.
Mr. Tuna was my father. Just call me Timmy. Timmy. Anyway, so they go up to the roof for the rest of their discussion in, like, a private area of the rooftop bar, I guess.
Sure.
Just take her to your room. It's okay, fine. And during the scene, we're seeing it from the perspective of Keller, who's ruminating on how much harder his job is going to be now that he's actually met Lily because of, one, her life in Miami. He's immediately judging her for what he sees to be a very inappropriate line of work for a future queen. But his job is also going to be harder because she's beautiful and he's attracted to her. She's described as having, quote, long white blonde hair, eyes the color of ice crystals, and a slender frame still curvy enough in all the right places for a man to grip onto.
I do not like the ice crystal eyes. They sound terrifying.
Yeah, like a husky with blue eyes. No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't like that when we get that in male characters. I don't like that in anyone other than Draco Malfoy.
Yes, that's the one.
Also, because his are more silver, so it's less creepy.
Well, and they turn gray when he does the occluding or whatever it's called.
Exactly.
So Keller convinces Lily that this is real by showing her a picture of her mother Margaret when Margaret was younger with King Theo and Queen Catla. He then shows her a picture that Lily's mother sent to King Theo of Lily when Lily was a child. This is the first that Lily has ever heard of this particular exchange, and she's reeling from it. Keller goes on to say that King Theo has requested that Lily be brought to Torskethorpe and trained in royal etiquette as an official heir in line for the throne. He doesn't give her much room to think about it, though, because even though she's reeling from all of this information and still has a lot of questions, he tells her their flight leaves early the next morning, whether she's on it or not. When Lily goes back to her apartment, she debriefs with her friend Timmy Tuna. They do some Googling and find most of what Keller said that can be verified via third-party resources, and Timmy Tuna encourages her to go. He tells her that he and their other employees will have the bikini truck on lock, so she doesn't have to worry about that. One-line fixer about everything else, and so Lily decides to go.
Which is a wild... I mean, sure, why not?
I'm just trying to envision a world where my answer to that question would be yes.
I'm also trying to envision a world that this bikini truck has multiple employees.
Yeah, I know. Okay. And we get a lot of information about these multiple employees. Like, they're Latina twins who always have, like, more sales or something. I'm like, why?
Because I didn't, honestly, you could have just, like, left and I probably would never even question what happened to the truck because I would have assumed Timmy Tuna would take care of it.
Right. He could have just said, I've got it handled. Like, I'll figure it out. Go.
Yeah, go.
Cool. But, okay, I think the thing that, like, I'm just trying to relate to and I just can't. There's no, like, safety plan, right? Like, like I'm thinking if you were Lily, right, and you were talking to me about this plan, I'd be like, "What? You got to take me with you, or something, or like bring a gun or something." Like, there's no fucking way that I would be like, "Yeah, girl, you should go by yourself tomorrow." Like,
right?
What?
We did some brief Googling. It's fine.
No, that's how people get sold.
Also, tomorrow, like, I gotta pack up my stuff. Like, how long am I going for? Do I need to, like, end my lease? Like, do I have a pet? Like, I got shit to do here.
Right.
Tomorrow.
There's, like, there's no accounting for, like, the realities and practicalities of what this actually would require.
Nope. Not at all.
So, like I said, Lily decides to go, and we see her totally bored and filled with nervous excitement on the private jet that she, Keller, and the security guard, whose name is Braimar, take back to Torskethorpe. As they fly, Lily tries to engage Keller in conversation, but he is stonewalling her. He tells her, quote, "It is not my duty to get to know you. It is my duty to bring you to Torskethorpe." And he thinks it would be better if they don't speak. So he tries to make that happen.
Which doesn't make any sense because, like, it's your job, which he says so many times, to train me. And you don't think we should bond a little bit?
Or, like, start now.
Yeah, teach me now. We have, like, a 20-hour plane ride.
Give me some material about Torskethorpe.
Torskethorpe, which is a terrible name.
Right. Tell me about the publicly available information about my family. Like, I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. He's terrible.
So, he's the worst. Lily continues to goad him and uses swearing language, which seems to rile him further, to the point where Keller says that she shouldn't swear at all in her new role. Lily asks him why, and he won't give her a good reason. And she keeps asking why until he loses his temper. We're told that Keller, quote, slams his book down and growls, end quote.
Okay, this is something I don't like that we see a lot, especially in, like, the, like, dommy BDSM books. You don't have to have anger management problems to be a dom. Like, I don't like that we always get that, oh, it's both things. Like, it doesn't have to be. You could just be a guy.
Yeah, like, there's so much about Keller that just signals to me that he doesn't know how to manage his emotions very well. Like, I much prefer the doms that we read about that are like when they're annoyed, they just get quieter.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's like, if there were drywalls around, he would be punching hole in drywall. Like, he breaks a chair later. Like, that makes me uncomfortable.
Because then it's threatening. Like, now you're genuinely violent, and I don't like that. I don't like that either. I will say, so I don't know at what point I made this note, but this sounds so terrible because I understand the book we're reading, but I don't like the way Lily talks. Like, she is really uncouth, for lack of a better word. Like, she's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like she's trying to be edgy, and it's coming off as like, you were born in a barn, weren't you?
Exactly. Like, and I know some of it is just trying to rile Keller, but I think some of it is just her personality, and I don't like it.
I don't either. And I feel like anti-feminist, I guess, saying that, but like,
yeah.
I think the reason that it hits me the wrong way is that it very much smacks of like manic pixie dream girl energy.
It does. That's 100%. It's that vibe, and that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah. It's just like, this can't be you as a real person.
No, and she just goes so hard into it where I'm just like, who are you talking to?
Right. Remind me of that energy when they land, because I didn't put it in my notes, but I want to talk about it in reference to that.
Okay.
So rather than just answering the goddamn question, Keller tells her that they're not going to discuss anything and we should change the subject. Eventually, Lily tells him that his frustration is self-induced because all she wants to do is talk, and he's stonewalling her. He takes that into consideration and tells her that his full name is Keller Fitzwilliam and his loyalty and allegiance lie with the palace of Torskethorpe. He's currently reading poetry, and when he's not working, he spends his time hiking because the country is stunning. Cool. Satisfied, Lily takes a nap in the bed at the back of the plane. When she wakes up, they've arrived, but as soon as the door to the plane opens, she realizes that they are in a subarctic country and she's not wearing appropriate clothing, which feels like something someone should have told her in the less than 24 hours she had to pack for this flight.
Right. Or at least like provided her with like a parka.
You don't have an extra parka in this private jet?
Right. It's the vibes of the last book we read, Kingdom of the Cursed, where you're just going to take me to this frozen tundra and not give me a coat or a warning.
In a fucking ball? Like, come on.
That's how this felt, because she's probably wearing like a sports bra and yoga pants. Like, she's not prepared.
Right. And like, if this was truly like a royal thing, like they would have had all of that for her. Like, it wouldn't have been a problem.
She's a princess. They don't treat her like a princess
at all. So okay,
Ever.
this is one of the good examples of manic pixie dream girl energy, because she like nosedives for the car, like shortest path from the warm plane to the warm car that's waiting for them. And in the car, she's like literally digging around in the seats, and when like with her hands, and when Keller joins her, she's like, "Have you seen my nipples? I think they fell off. It's so cold."
And that's where I'm just like, I hate you.
Yeah.
You're not cute.
I'm like, girl.
Like, and then we learn more. I just don't. Leave something to the imagination. And I know that sounds anti-feminist. Like, you do you. You're not a real person, but like, ugh. I would hate her. I would hate her.
We wouldn't be friends, that's for sure. It just, like, I didn't even see this as funny because, like, I read it as literal, and I thought she was talking about, like, pasty nipples, you know? Like, they fell off because it was so cold they weren't adhering anymore. I was like, oh, that's so inconvenient. And then I was like, oh, you're trying to be funny.
And this is where, to my point earlier, I don't think she's trying to rile him. Like, this is where I think this is just her personality.
Right. Woof.
Yeah.
Big woof.
Although your point about the pasty nipples, which is not what's happening, but that would be wildly inconvenient.
Right. But then it's like, what do you, it's just, it was such another example of something that I wish we didn't have to see.
And like, you could just be cold. Like, just show me that you're cold. I don't need this.
Right. So our merry band of assholes drives to the south end of the country, where they end up at a castle named Harrogate. And we learned that Harrogate is mostly abandoned, and it used to be the summer palace of the royal family. The reason they're going there instead of the main palace is because King Theo doesn't want to put too much pressure around Lily before she's made her final decision. Compounding this, there's a leak in the palace that has the media swarming around a long-lost granddaughter coming back into town. Keller is stressed because they don't know who this leak is. Once they arrive at this disheveled palace, Braimar goes into town to pick up his girlfriend Lara, who will be staying with them and works for the palace as well.
I didn't realize that she also was a bodyguard until far later, and I was like, you're just letting this guy have his girlfriend around?
Yeah, well, because he leads with that. He leads with, oh, he's picking up his girlfriend, not he's picking up another bodyguard, right? Like,
who happens to be. Yeah.
so like that vibe immediately is like, oh, we're all on vacation here. Like we're renting an Airbnb situation.
That confused me. I was like, this is wild. And it's such a plot device just to get another woman in this house.
Who, again, is positioned to be a friendly person, but is still, say it with me, staff.
You can't be friends with your staff.
You can't be friends with people you pay. Anyway. So Lily and Keller share the 2 rooms upstairs, while Braemar and Lara will share the room on the first floor because they be fucking. The room upstairs is a Jack and Jill situation where they have a shared bathroom, but all of the doors are so old and ill-used that there's not really any privacy because none of them shut appropriately. Convenient.
Just wild.
As they settle in, Keller can realize that Lily is going through the phases of regret, and he tells her, don't worry, it's not going to be forever, just until things calm down. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm fine.
Because not only is this like such a wild situation to be in, but this castle's falling apart. Like, it's dark, it's cold, nothing works right. Like,
musty.
The bathroom, they described the toilet in the bathroom as being like 6 inches off the ground.
Yeah. Not cute.
No, not
Certainly.
cute.
Well, and I mean, like, from Lily's perspective, she's expecting to meet like long lost family and doesn't.
Because that's what she was promised. That's what lured her here.
Yep. So when Lara arrives, she's also brought warmer clothes for Lily, so Lily's not freezing to death, which, like, why was that Lara's responsibility? It's fine. It's fine.
And why was that just not already there?
Why doesn't Lily, why doesn't Keller, like, instead of 2 bodyguards and Keller, shouldn't it be like some kind of lady's maid, 2 bodyguards and Keller, and then like a host of tutor? Like, it's just, why is it Keller's sole responsibility to do this? Like, he's not the best equipped person for this.
No, it's terrible. It doesn't make any sense. Also, they're like, we didn't have enough time. I'm like, well, they had to fly all the way to Miami, stay there for probably at least 2 days, and fly all the way back. So you had at least 72 hours, and you couldn't get this girl a jacket?
And you're not going to tell me that you couldn't make a single call back to Torskethorpe and be like, hey, homegirl lives in Miami. Can you, like, get some winter clothes? She's a size X.
Yeah.
Are we royalty?
There
or
should
not?
be.
I'm just saying.
That is where my question comes in, where I'm like, is this even what's happening in this book? But of course it is.
Of course it is, but I'm just like, could it not be?
Could it not be? Because she's not a princess.
She's not being given the princess treatment, that's for sure.
Nope.
So we learned that the internet is spotty at best, and it's completely out the first night that they get there. And I wanted this to be a bigger issue, but it feels like it was just something that was offhandedly done. Like, there's no reason that we get this information.
Yeah.
The 4 of them have dinner, and then Lily turns in early for the night. When she does, the remaining 3 of them talk about how this isn't exactly the best introduction for Lily to Torskethorpe. They talk about how they're trying to figure out who the leak in the palace is, but they've had nothing so far. Lara, in particular, remarks how Keller has lost any semblance of patience since Lily came into the picture, which is odd because she's only seen them for a couple of hours.
Yeah, after a day of travel, when like I lose some patience after traveling all day, so this was a weird comment to make.
Yeah. Keller defends himself, though, saying that he thinks the idea of convincing Lily to become a royal person when she's never even heard of the country is a joke. But the other 2 counsel him to be more patient.
Okay. I mean, Keller's kind of onto something.
Yeah. No, he's not wrong. So this is when we learned that the 3 of them, Lara, Braemar, and Keller, grew up together because their parents all worked in the palace. Keller talks about a fond memory that he has when they were all playing hide-and-go-seek in the palace, and that was the first time they met King Theo because the king joined into their game. He tells us that King Theo from that day forward was like a grandfather to all of them. And this is the first indication that I have that King Theo needs to say no to more people.
Or maybe if King Theo treated his actual biological children the way he treats the servants' children, his kids would have stayed around.
Oof. You're not wrong.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it just feels like we see a lot of King Theo, like, or like secondhand, I'll say. Either he's on the phone or we get memories of him. And it's just, he's a weird character for a king to be.
Oh, I think later Keller legitimately describes him as cool, which I've never heard to describe any king ever.
No. Well, and like, he just seems very accessible, which seems like, I don't know. It feels like that version of him versus what we're experiencing with like, oh, we got to keep her secret, keep it safe. Like that just doesn't jive for me. Like we talked about this in our debrief, but like either I would have thought King Theo would have been like very upfront about like, hey, this is my lost great granddaughter. We're going to bring her into the country and like teach her how to do blah, blah. Everybody be nice. Right. Or I would make it super public so that I would use that pressure on her to make her stay.
Right. Exactly. But this weird halfway doesn't make any sense to me.
No. Okay. And the idea of the reason that they're not bringing her to like the main palace to like meet everybody because of this like leak or whatever, like just kick all of the press out of the palace. Or like, so what if the leak like gets out? Like the most you're gonna get is just like gossip columns, right? Like you can control the narrative more that way. It just doesn't seem like a very strong reason for her to not go directly to the palace and like meet her fucking family.
Exactly. And like, why can't she learn all of this stuff in the palace? Like, you can keep her safe in the palace. And the other thing that's weird about this whole keep it secret, keep it safe is you were really going to keep this full secret and then be like, surprise, here's your new queen.
Right. Like what was the plan there?
There was no plan. No plan.
Yeah. Because even later, like we'll talk about it when we get there, but like they end up being pressured into going back to the palace and they're like, okay, so then we'll make this plan and then we'll do the introduction. I'm like, did you not have the introduction planned such that you were assuming she was going to say yes after this process? Because I would have
had that all planned.
Yeah. Like ready to go, ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah. From the second King Theo was like, go get my granddaughter, I would have started planning that.
Right. Including some winter ass clothes. I'm just saying.
There were no thoughts given to this other than fetch the child.
Right. So back to Lily, who is in bed and can't sleep because of all of the creepy sounds from the massive derelict palace. Keller checks on her and she finds this odd because he hasn't exactly been kind to her. He says it's not that he's unkind, it's just that she irritates him. Is that a good reason to be unkind?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to check in because I felt like I was being gaslit a little bit.
It's not a good reason to be unkind, and it doesn't make sense why he would come at her as such a hard ass when like you're gonna need to work together. You're gonna need her to trust you.
Right. Like you're going about this the wrong way.
Also, who made you secretary? Because you have no people skills.
Like negative amounts of charisma. Like when you were rolling your character sheet, you got a negative roll on that.
Yeah. Negative roll.
So Keller reveals that he was the source of some of those weird noises that were keeping Lily up because he was trying to get his pen to keep writing for his diary, but he was running out of ink. He tells Lily that it's a tradition for the royal secretaries to keep notes so that they might eventually be published one day as a part of the royal history.
Only if they want it to be, though? That was so wishy-washy.
I know. And Lily tries to ask like what he's written about her and then goes on to say like, okay, well, at least tell me what's going on. And he's like, nope, you'll find out eventually. Go to bed.
Okay. Cool.
All right. And so now I'm going to do this annoying thing where I start counting the days that they've been there, because this is the big problem that I have with this book is, one, we're forced to spend every last measly 24 hours with these people. And also there's a lot of love bombing happening in a very short amount of time. So yeah, we're on day 2. And
please do this for the whole book.
Oh, I will. I'll do my best.
Great.
So Lily is awoken by Lara, who says that it's time to go for a jog. So because all of her security detail is going, Lily must go too.
They can't stay home and work out inside. They're gonna
go in
she's
shifts.
A princess. Go in. You don't all have to run together as a threesome.
I know, okay, but also like the whole she's a princess, she can do what she wants. Like these people treat her inappropriately.
They do. That's what I don't understand. Is she a princess or not? Because no one treated Mia Thermopolis this way.
That's true. Nobody made Mia Thermopolis go for a run at 6 a.m. I'm just saying.
Also, why does it have to be 6 a.m? Anyway.
Not that it matters because they're in the land of endless summer, right? So the sun never goes down.
Yep.
Supposedly. Anyway, Lily is not a runner, but she tries to keep up. As they get further from the castle, though, she starts to realize that she might have a predicament on her hands and asks Keller if she's a captive. It's a reasonable assumption.
I was wondering the same thing. I still kind of am. Honestly.
I still kind of am. Yeah. I mean, they could have gotten literally any old guy in like a Hugh Hefner robe and been like, cough a little bit. You're a king.
Yeah. And he'd be like, oh, Lily.
Right. Darling.
Liliha.
So Keller tells her that if she wants to leave, all she has to do is say the word. She's not a captive. But she's like, okay, still, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, where's my family? And he says he knows, but it's what they have to deal with. And so just give him a little bit more time. So the jogging thing ends pretty quickly because Lily is, again, I can't say this enough, not a runner. And so she and Keller end up fast walking. As they do, they talk about why the island has no trees. And we learn that the Vikings stripped the land when they first landed there, and very few have grown back. But the volcanic land is very rich. So they do have a nice, like, lush vegetation side that is good for farming or some shit. This is a part of her, quote, training. We also learned that one of the volcanoes on the island is called Loki, and this is where Lily makes a Marvel reference that I just can't with. But we learned that, fortunately, this is a reference to Norse mythology, not Marvel characters.
Thank God.
Yeah. We also learned that the only native animal on the island is the Nordic fox. So many facts and figures. Isn't it exciting? Lily, for one, is excited that she doesn't have to worry about the animals on the island killing her like she does in Florida. Relatable.
That is relatable.
No flying cockroaches either.
No, thank God.
So they talk about the name Torskethorpe and how it means cod settlement. And that leads them to this conversation about how they're surrounded by schools of cod in the ocean and that it's one of the main staples of their diet. So this is all to illustrate that this is a very like Nordic adjacent culture. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's based on heavily.
Yeah. So back at the ranch, everybody showers and eats, and then they speak with King Theo over a Zoom call. We learned that Lily's actual name is Lilija. Lilija?
Is that her actual name, or is that just like a nickname?
I think Lily is a nickname for Lilija.
Okay, because I read that as like it was like a pet name. But that makes more sense that would be her real name. Because she's like, oh, my mom called me that. And I was like, because it's your name.
Because it's your name. Yeah, it's your legal last name.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. She's called both.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It could be a nickname because later when they say that her name has been leaked to the press, it's Lily whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But the king calls her Lilija.
Which makes her accept him as grandfather.
Yeah, because like you said, it's the exact same thing that her mom used to call her. During this conversation, the king tells Lily that not only is she un heir for the throne, she is actually next in line for the throne and not just some nameless princess. Lily at first thinks that this is a joke and that she's on a reality TV show, but the king shows her that it's not a prank and that she's there for a really important reason. She is their only hope to preserve the country and culture from being invaded by their political enemies? ? Okay.
Also, like, who are these political enemies? They're just going to wipe out the entire culture that's been around for centuries. I assume. That's true. My bad. Well, I mean, when you're taken over by Batman, you have no more culture.
That's true. Yeah.
Batmobiles everywhere.
Batmobiles everywhere. Black spandex everywhere.
Everywhere.
So they hang up with the king, and now that they've spoken with King Theo, apparently Keller is more at liberty to speak on what's happening. So before he dives into anything, he gives her a letter from the king. In this letter, King Theo tells her that he's been a part of her life from a distance, respecting her mother Margaret's wishes of keeping her two lives separate. However, now the risk to the country is too great, and he has to break that promise. He asks her to let Keller train her in their culture for 2 months. And after that, if she doesn't feel like it's the life for her, she can go back to Miami. To which I say, we'll breeze past this later, but like her parents straight up died several years ago. But like now that it's convenient for you, you're going to reach out. Like there's something about that hits me wrong.
It feels really gross to me.
Skeezy.
Yeah. Also, we'll get the family tree here, like right now in a second. But from the prologue, it wasn't clear to me that Lily's parents had died. And I was like, why would her mom not just be the heir? And then I was like, oh, she's dead. Never mind.
She's dead. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah.
My bad.
So let's get into the family tree, because after a while, Lily asks to speak with Keller privately, and they go back up to her room, and she asks about her aunts and uncles. He tells her about Paula, who was the oldest sister and who married another royal and so abdicated her position. Then there's Roland, the second-born son, but he was a fuckboy and got exiled for rolling around in thousand-year-old moss, sacred moss. And then there was Sven, who was married, but it turns out his wife was actually a lesbian who ran off with a lady in waiting. And so he ended up taking a sailing boat into the ocean, and they haven't been able to see him since. Which brings us to Margaret and Lily. And to your point, Margaret is dead.
And so to be clear, 2 of these heirs are still alive and just like around.
Yeah. One of them is a fuckboy, so like I get that. But
yeah,
the other one
is just missing.
Can't you just wait a little bit long? Like okay.
I don't know. And even the one who's a fuckboy, like, I've seen that movie. They can get it together, or he's going to come back as a supervillain.
Right. There's only 2 options, and we want him to not be a supervillain. So like maybe bring him back into the fold.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to bring this up again. Theo, maybe if you treated your children nicely, none of this would have happened. I mean, like, you can't control people, but even Paula, it was like there was some falling out with her and her mom too.
Yeah, well, because okay, so it's not. We're gonna learn about it shortly, so I'll just talk about it now. So Paula left, right, and her mom was like mad about it, and so she was like, "Okay, nobody else can leave none of my children can leave the country." Because you got to stay here and do your duty. And that's why Margaret was like, fuck that noise, and left and like broke ties with her family and like never spoke to her mom again, which was the only reason why she was like corresponding with Theo rather than Theo and Katla, which like, okay, guys, I feel like there's a middle ground here.
There is a middle ground. Also, I feel like by the time you had a child, I don't know, you could let bygones be bygones. Like, you moved out, you had your life.
Right.
Also, Margaret, by the point she left, I assume that the other 3 were already... Well, no, I guess not. I guess Sven didn't go missing yet. But, like, you're not worried about your home country or your parents?
Right. But then also, like, Paula, can't you realize... Not Paula. Katla. Like, maybe that's why one of your sons grew up as a fuckboy and the other one grew up without being able to, like, effectively manage, like, loss. Like...
That's what I'm saying.
You're creating a hostile environment.
It's a problem.
Yeah, big problem. So after Lily is given this information about her family, she expresses that she's angry with her parents for not saying anything about this to her at all. And it feels like Keller has more to say about the situation, and so she pressures him into telling her. And this is where he tells her the reason that Margaret left is because of a fight with her mother Katla about wanting more freedom, blah, blah, blah. So after divulging this information to Lily, Keller tells us internally that it's surprisingly easy for her to get secrets out of him, especially secrets of the state, which is important to him because his highest loyalty he sees is to the palace and like the royals there, not necessarily to Lily.
For now.
I had so many questions about this because he says, "Oh, my loyalty is to the palace." And I'm like, okay, Lily is like, regardless of whether or not she decides that she wants to stay, she's still by blood and therefore legally part of the palace. So like, I don't understand why there's this arbitrary line.
That's a really good question because like you're loyal to the country, but this is the future of your country, but you're not loyal to her.
And so you're just creating more problems by not being completely like forthcoming with information with her. Like,
And none of these things are like state secrets. Like he's so weird about the like, well, this isn't really my story to tell. I'm like, okay, but it's her family history.
It is. Okay, and then also, like, I'm sorry. Y'all are an island in the Baltic Sea. Get over yourselves. Like, she's not asking for bank account numbers. Like, can you just, like, slow your roll a little bit?
Right. Like, it's really going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine, guys.
And you're going to have to tell her all the state secrets if you want her to be queen.
Yes. So why not get it out of the way now? Get all of the skeletons out of the closet, my friend.
Yeah.
So Lily spends the rest of the evening alone in her room, but doesn't come up with any more answers. And so in the middle of the night, she finds that she's hungry since she skipped dinner. She tries to sneak downstairs for a snack, but ends up making a noise, which makes Lara react by striking who she believes is an intruder with the handle of a mop. This cracks Lily in the face, and the whole house is then awake. Keller picks Lily up off the floor, puts her on the couch, and makes sure she's okay, even though she's got this big egg gash on her forehead.
Like her skull is bleeding.
Like her skull is bleeding, right? And in her haze, she realizes that Keller is only in a pair of boxer briefs. Lily remarks to us internally that she's never seen a man in boxer briefs before, which is really a tragedy. And now that she's seen one, all she can think about is the sizable bulge in front of her face as he tends to the wound on her head. Lara is running around feeling like shit, overly apologizing, but Lily tells her it's for the best because she was on alert and just doing her job.
Yeah, calm down, girl.
Ultimately, Lara and Braimar go back to bed, and Keller tends to Lily. He seems to get angry when Lily keeps saying that she's fine and that he's overreacting. He tells her that she's his responsibility, and if she gets hurt, that's on him. He tells her she's important to this country, and how would she like it if something happened to her bikini wagon, right? Because her bikini wagon is important to her. How would she feel?
Which was a wild analogy to me, but that's fine.
Yeah, no, this whole thing is wild because he goes on to say, quote, even if you decide that you don't want to be a part of royal life and you go back to Miami, until that time has come, you matter most. Which there's so many like double negatives in this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just strike out even and don't. And so it's if you decide you want to be a part of royal life and you don't go back to Miami, you matter most. But if you do go back to Miami,
you still matter most.
Yeah. No,
right.
You
Yeah.
don't matter most. Like you matter like nothing. You only matter if you're doing the right thing.
You cease to exist if you don't help us, even though I'm not helping you.
Right. And Lily gets butterflies in her stomach because she tells us this is the first time anybody has looked at her with such intensity. And she confesses to us that this is what she's always looked for in a man. And I'm like, but what he's saying to you is fucked up.
Yeah, what he's saying to you is you only matter if you do what we want you to do.
Right. So Keller stands up and his crotch is still close to her face and she's openly staring. Keller tells her to not, and she plays dumb because she really wants to jump his body. And then he does some dirty talk here and then like promptly goes up to his room to grab a blanket.
Okay, so like I was here for the chemistry, but going back and thinking about it, he makes no sense as a person. Like even the dirty talk here is like, why would you say that? You don't know her. This is day 2. This is day 2.
Day 2, friends and family. Yeah, okay. And like this scene was just comical to me because this is not how it was described in the book. But in my head, he does like a little like overly sexy camp like walk up the stairs because he knows that she's looking.
Honestly, that's what I pictured as well, because how could he not?
How could he not? I mean, it's the first time she's seen boxer briefs on a man. Holy shit.
Okay, but then we learn more about like her own sexual history and I'm just like, but you've never seen boxer briefs?
There's no fucking way the millionaire you were dating in Miami was wearing boxers.
No, because only children wear boxers.
Or if he was wearing a jockstrap, girl, he was not 100% straight.
Nope.
Which
or
is
like
fine,
tidy
but
whities.
like, right. Oh,
it's the worst. Okay, so I had to like, she calls these boxer briefs, but then she talks about how they're like cut up to his hip. And I'm just picturing those as tidy whities.
Yeah, no, that was a weird description, and I had to erase it from my mind until you just reminded me of it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for that.
I couldn't get past it. I was like, also, I could only picture him as a Ken doll with like flesh-colored groin. I don't know. Like just smooth and fleshy, but like it's also printed with like a waistband.
Yeah.
I'm not into Keller. Like I'm into their chemistry, and I'll say that again. And like it works for me kind of later.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
I'm also not into Keller, mostly because Keller makes me uncomfortable. But I also kept having this weird thought in my head, and I think it was just the intrusive thoughts. But I was like, man, I wonder how much of this book is written by an AI.
Ooh.
And like fully, this was published in 2022. Like I feel like AI was definitely not where it is today, but it reads at some points like that because some of the things are just non sequitur. Like the characters like they're not consistent. They don't make sense. And then there's just weird like offhanded things about like how boxer briefs were cut up to the hip. I'm like, what is he wearing, a bikini? Like
exactly. There's also some editing things that I'll point out. It's a little bit later on, but like there's some problems.
Major problems, besides the fact that we spend every waking moment with these people.
Oh my God. Because again, it's day 2 and we've been recording for over an hour.
Yes. Buckle up. We go to day 10 in this part. So I guess they spend the rest of the night on the couch because Keller like wants to wake her up every hour to make sure she doesn't have a concussion, which seems egregious.
It does.
But I'm
egregious.
not a doctor, so whatever.
Nope.
So because he's in his pajamas, we can finally see a little bit of the tattoo popping up from the neckline, and we're given to understand that that covers the majority of his chest. I think that was probably covered when he was in his boxers earlier, but I wasn't reading that closely.
Yeah, it had to have been because if the only thing he was wearing were boxers, you had to have been able to see his chest. But the tattoo thing seems to come and go because she doesn't mention it every time.
I also just don't, maybe we'll talk about it later in the book, but like I'm kind of over like men in these romance novels having just like full torso tattoos for no reason.
Yeah, no. And I pictured him as being like really classic tribal.
I know.
And by classic, I mean
bad.
Campy. Yeah.
But I mean, like, homeboy literally is like milk toast, grew up in a palace, white boy, right? Like,
yeah. Where did you get these and why?
What are you fucking doing? Like, did you join a biker gang when you were in like primary school? I just don't understand.
It doesn't make sense.
A tricycle gang.
A tricycle gang.
Anyway, like I'm just picturing like my husband having a full torso tattoo, and I just wouldn't take him seriously. I would just be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, no, I couldn't see. He would look like he was playing dress up.
Yes, exactly. So he's like sitting in a chair and she's lying on the couch and Lily is ogling him and he's like, go to sleep. And she's like, but the sky is awake. So I'm awake. I can't just go to sleep. Something.
Also, you're staring at me like a creeper cat. I can't just go to sleep.
Yeah. So instead they talk about her mother Margaret and how Margaret loved to embroider. This particular style of embroidery is apparently very difficult because it's white on white and very intricate, but Margaret was very good at it. They also talk about a popular dessert on the island called vinitart, which is usually eaten during a festival of Torg in the summer. That's also when they drink mead, which Keller describes as fermented honey water for some reason, and Lily says she's never heard of it. And I just find this whole conversation ridiculous.
Because A, that's not what mead is. B, you've never heard of it. Both of you get out of here.
Right. Lose my fucking number. I don't fucking believe you.
No.
I like for Keller to describe it as fermented honey water. Yes, that's technically true, but that also tells me you know nothing about how alcohol is distilled.
Right. Also, call it honey wine. Like, that's the easiest descriptor. She knows what wine is.
That is what it is. Like,
exactly.
I mean, yes, so technically wine is fermented grape water. Yes, well spotted.
But no one calls it that.
No, because nobody would drink it.
No, it sounds gross.
So Keller's talking about this festival of Torg, and Lily asks what his favorite part of Torg is, and he references one of the traditions, which is wood carving.
This man has too many hobbies. I'm sorry. He carves wood, he writes poetry, he's got too many hobbies.
Well, he goes to a tattoo artist on a regular basis because he's got his whole fucking body tattooed, right?
Also that.
And he's physically fit, and he keeps a diary, and he's got a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure, Jan.
So then as Lily drifts off to sleep, she asks Keller if he thinks that she could do this job. And he says, quote, "I think your life is in Miami, but your soul rests among the moss and the lava rock. You belong here, Lily." And Lily tells us it's the first time that she feels like he doesn't dislike her and admits to herself that she wants him to like her and to not be disappointed in her. And I'm like, whoa, day 2.
It's still day 2.
It's still day 2. Wow. So the next morning, Lara again apologizes to Lily. And at breakfast, Lily tells everybody that she's decided to give the 2-month thing a chance. Given that news, Keller sneaks upstairs to shower and calls the king and tells him about the news. The king tells Keller to give her a realistic picture of what her life would be like, and Keller agrees. They both know that she needs to be mentally prepared for the responsibility of potentially becoming queen. The king then tells Keller that the queen also knows that Lily is there, and though she's happy, she also seems worried, almost like she doesn't want to meet Lily because she's afraid she'll just lose her again. Okay. Keller asks the king to talk to Lily more, but the king doesn't want her to see him sick, but it feels like he's not going to get better, so I don't really understand what he's going for there.
It doesn't make sense to me. Also, like, you're her grandfather. I don't think she cares if you're sick. She just wants to meet her family.
Right, and I don't understand what the difference is between, like, you already talked to her on a Zoom call once. Like, just do that every day.
And she saw you cough.
Yeah. Before the king hangs up, he tells Keller, quote, "I have faith in you, Keller, my son." And it's here that we really see illustrated the king seeing Keller as his son, to the point where he's admitted earlier in the book that he would give Keller the spot of his heir in a heartbeat if he could. Which, like, if that's not laying the groundwork for spoilers, I don't know what is.
Also because, like, you're king. You could.
You could. You literally could.
The country might not like it, but you could.
Right. So when Keller hangs up, he thinks about the night before and the way that Lily kind of came on to him in a very inappropriate way and how much he liked it and how he needs to lock those feelings down right now.
Okay. She looked at him because he was just like balls in her face and he said something really dirty. I don't blame her for that.
Nope.
I'm only defending her right now. It goes away very fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So back downstairs, it's day 1 of training, and they go into a room with literally nothing but a chair in it.
Like an interrogation room.
It's kind of creepy, and Keller's like, "It'll help you focus," and Lily is like, "On what planet?"
It will not.
So she makes a scene until there's a plant, a rug, a table, and an extra chair brought into the room. And then they get started. Keller tries to get out the 5 categories that they will train in, but Lily keeps interrupting him, which causes him to lose his temper and growl at her. Finally, he does get out the 5 categories, which are etiquette, appearance, history, crisis management, and cultural traditions. And we learn that crisis management is literally what to do if she gets kidnapped.
Which, cool. Spoilers, will come up in part 2.
I can't imagine why. As soon as they said crisis management, I was like, is she going to get kidnapped? Is that going to be the damsel in distress thing?
Yep.
So they start with appearance, and we learn that while she's welcome to wear what she wants when she's not in public, there are strict guidelines when she is in public. They talk about whether she has tattoos, and she says she only has 1 tattoo on the inside of her arm to commemorate the death of her parents. And she goes on to share, apropos of nothing, that her nipples and clit are pierced.
Ouch.
And she also goes into list the number of places that she's had sex and that she's been to a sex club a couple of times. She admits she likes sex, but she's never taken any nudes or recorded herself, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then she talks about a particular millionaire she used to date in Miami, and Keller asks the wildly inappropriate question of whether that guy was her dom, and she's like, yeah, actually he was. But she does say that she's not involved with anyone at the moment.
This is... I didn't know what to do with any of this information. I was like, we're doing this to falsely instigate some sexual relationship, and it's just like wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, and this is where, like, I mean, this story was not held together by a whole lot earlier, but this is really where it fell apart, because I'm just like, as soon as Keller realized that he was in this position where he was like could not control his insatiable lust for this woman, he should have called in someone else. Like, this is just not okay. And this is also not what would happen. Like, this is just not, I just don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. I don't believe any of it.
So this litany of confessions has Keller feeling all kinds of hot and bothered, but they are interrupted before anything can happen because Braimar has an update about, quote, supplies have been delivered to an undisclosed location. I'm going to pick them up. Laura will be here. And I'm like, bro, how are you going to go to the location if it's undisclosed?
Also, it's probably just the town that you went to go pick Laura up from.
Also, are we talking about like groceries? Like, are there more winter clothes for homegirl? Like, I
don't know. Also, just say supplies have been delivered. I'm going to go get them. Why do you
I have to go run some errands?
Yeah. Also, no one cares, Braimar. Get out of here.
Right. We were having a moment. So later in the afternoon, after a long day of training where Lily and Keller are incredibly sexually charged, Lily and Lara go for a walk. Lara tells her that she thinks that Keller is trying to give Lily a glimpse of what life will be like if she takes the job so she can have all of the information necessary to make the right decision for her. Lily says it's going to be difficult for her because she feels like she has to hide parts of who she is, but Lara encourages her to just have a child filter on when she's in public.
There's so many times that Lara says something in a better way than Keller did, and she's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, Lara should be the one doing this.
Yeah, she absolutely should, or at least some of it. Like, it shouldn't just be this, okay, well, one, it should never just be this one point of failure.
No.
Two, definitely not when that one point of failure can't keep it in his pants. So they talk again about the incident with the mop handle, and Lara says that Keller was distraught because he's protective of Lily. Lily tells us that she'd like to believe that something is there in that protectiveness, but even if there was, she knows that Keller would never act on it. As they walk back to the castle, Lily jokes that she's been watching Bridgerton so she can use that as material to annoy Keller more.
This is where I just don't like her as a character, because like you're just trying to annoy him and like you're making his job harder, and like I don't like either of you, to be fair, but it's the manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, and like he says at some point that she's not taking this seriously, and I think he's right. Like she's not.
Yeah,
taking
she's not
seriously
at all.
So we move on to day 4. As they come back from their morning jog, Lily watches Keller do push-ups like a sleazy old man, and then she tells him that she's been thinking that they're going to have to get married since they're spending so much time alone without a chaperone. Keller says, quote, I'll get married right here, right now, but I'll tell you this. You're not going to enjoy being my wife. I take what I want when I want, and if my wife dares disobey me, there will be consequences.
Gross.
Lily finds this hot. I find it disgusting.
I do too. I would be immediately turned off.
I'd be out. But she says this out loud and then calls Keller sir. This causes him to punch the stone next to her and tells her not to test him. He tells her, quote, trust me, Lily, if I was stealing your virtue, you would fucking know I was.
Also, how come she's not allowed to cuss, but he cusses like every sentence he speaks?
Right. And also, like, why when you get like physically, sexually motivated, you just get violent?
See, that's what I don't like. I'm like, that's not what you need to be. And now you just seem threatening and it's toxic and I don't like it.
Right. Because then it's like, okay, how do I not know, or how do I know how that's going to manifest when we actually are in that situation?
Exactly.
In training, they talk about how the king is briefed every morning about current events. But since it's classified information, Lily can't have that same briefing. To which I ask, why the fuck not? Lily drifts in and out of paying attention for the rest of the lesson when Keller literally smacks the table out of frustration like a child. He tells her that she's not taking this seriously, but she finds his agitation very hot. And then she gaslights him about whether she said someone's name right, to the point where he kicks the chair across the room and breaks it.
She does fully gaslight him, and I would also want to kick a chair. But also, why are we kicking things?
Why are we gaslighting him? That's so rude. Like, I hate gaslighting at all, especially you just shouldn't gaslight people. That's rude. There are better ways to get back at people.
Exactly. It was just completely unnecessary.
It's also in this conversation that Lily brings up like the thing that she calls the informative, or maybe Keller calls it that, but she's trying to look for essentially the Bridgerton gossip rag thing. And instead
lady
of
whistle
like,
down.
Yeah, the lady whistle down thing. And instead of getting annoyed, Keller just kind of goes along with it.
Which doesn't fit in his personality.
No, especially because directly after that, he gets so hot and bothered that he like kicks a chair across the room. Like, bro, where are you going to sit? There's like 4 chairs in this entire castle.
And you just broke one of them.
Right. So day 5, and Keller is just as irritated and Lily is just as annoying. This escalates to a screaming match and Lily flipping the table before leaving the room.
Because they're both children.
Yep. Day 6. Back in the room. She apologizes to the table. Then she tells Keller that the way that he's going about teaching her, training her, is killing her. She asks whether they can drive around or get out of the castle, and he says no, because they're not at liberty to do so because he said so.
Okay.
He goes on to say that she needs to stay hidden. She tells him that he needs to figure out a better way to teach her these things and leave
At least go into a different room, because not only does this book do the thing of taking place in one location, we're in one room.
Yeah. Well, and like this castle isn't even real to me, because like this book is almost entirely conversations happening.
Yeah.
And like, so they're just in what is essentially like a stone dungeon from like an N64 game to me. Like there's just no other like richness or texture or like believability about it. And it just the book is happening in a box for me. Like it's just not a well-developed, fully fleshed out world.
The N64 stone dungeon.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So the afternoon of day 6, the boys go out for a jog, and Lara asks Lily if everything's okay. Lily says that she just feels like they're not getting anywhere and they're wasting time. When the men come back, she and Keller can't help but stare at each other because he's all hot and sweaty and she's lecherous. Lara says out loud she can't wait to see how this turns out. Lily voices that it's not going to happen, but internally she says she wishes that it would, because it would go a long way at resolving the tension between them.
Would it?
I don't think it would. I don't think so.
No.
She immediately goes up to her room to text Timmy Tuna, finally, and let him know that she's alive on day 6.
If this was you and you went 6 days and I hadn't heard from you, I would be on a plane.
I would have been on a plane after the first 24 hours.
Exactly.
Are you fucking kidding? Like, I just, Okay, and so this is where, like, we said fully 9 pages of notes ago that their rooms are a Jack and Jill situation and, like, there's not really privacy. This is the first time it comes up, and I kind of forgot what was happening, because she, like, goes to her room to check her phone, but, like, Keller's in the bathroom, and he's like, whoa, what about privacy? And I'm like,
what about it?
What about it? Like, you're in the bathroom, she's in her room. Like, I don't understand the problem here. Like, it was just very weird.
The whole door situation on the bathrooms was so weird.
But I guess that's what I'm saying, as like one of the ways that it manifested that this book isn't really fleshed out for me, like from an environment perspective, like that N64 dungeon vibe, because like this scene was jarring because I didn't believe the environment that was told to me like 150 pages ago.
Also, this is the first time you've been in your room when he's in the bathroom in 6 days.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
And I mean, like, so then they go on. Maybe it's in the maybe it's when she was talking about like that she wishes that they could just like get it on and get some tension out. But like, she tells us at some point she hasn't even been able to masturbate because like there's no privacy in the rooms. And I'm like, show me that. Show me lying awake in bed, being able to literally hear Keller breathe because the door is open.
Yeah, because I don't believe that you can't take care of yourself. Like, you're not in the same room.
No, exactly.
And it's a castle. You have stone walls.
But yeah, but somehow you can't, like, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So anyway, Keller's like, wow, I'm about to shower. And you're like, right there, privacy is dead. And she's like, oh no, I was just leaving. But she can't help but like rake her eyes over his almost naked form. And he's like, oh, you looking ogling at me reminded me that you've been granted access to the informative. So tomorrow I'll start sending you the gossipy part of the morning news that the king gets briefed on. Which like is totally made up. Like, I don't understand how she doesn't see that.
Also, even in Bridgerton, that has nothing to do with like, maybe it does. I don't remember. I guess the queen does know about Lady Whistledown, but like the king's not going to get briefed on the gossip in town.
Right. And like, I can't tell if Lily thinks that this is real or not, because
I can't tell either, because she reads like 2 of them and she is into it.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, this is so real. And I'm like, you're an idiot.
Also, is Keller writing these?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he's got to be.
He has to be.
It's just so dumb. So anyway, Lily is lingering. She's like, oh, cool about that. And Keller's like, so are you going to stay and watch, or like, are you going to get the fuck out? And she's like, oh no, I'm just leaving. And then she has a conversation with Timmy Tuna via text. And really the only thing here is that he asks whether they fucked yet, she and Keller, and she says not.
A very deep friendship she has with Timmy Tuna.
Back with Keller in the shower, he tells us that Bryn Mawr warned him during their run together about his attraction to Lily. Bryn Mawr essentially told Keller to tread carefully, but Keller tells us that he's firmly in the Lily is off limits camp because she's a princess and he is nobody.
Ain't nobody.
So day 7, and Keller realizes that he needs to lighten up a bit and try something different to get Lily to retain the information about Torskethorpe. So that day they go up to the roof of the castle and have a lesson there. He talks about the countryside and uses the coastline that they can see to discuss it. This is when he shares that his parents died in a fire in the servants' quarter of the palace when Keller was 12, and thus they have the Dead Parents Club in common.
Oof, dark. How did her parents die? Car accident?
Car accident, yeah.
Okay.
Probably on the turnpike.
Probably wasn't the turnpike or I-4.
Yeah, right?
No, that doesn't go to Miami, JK. The turnpike.
95, yeah. So they then go on to have a question game, like no bones about it, just a regular ass, not trying to hide it or make it look like anything else question game, which you know how I feel about that.
So I did respect that they called it what it was.
Yeah, kind of, but I was also just like,
it's weak.
Weak sauce. Like, I mean,
you've spent
again,
7 days together.
This book isn't asking a whole lot. It's not trying very hard. I don't know what I expected. I just like, it was weak. Because she literally said, she's like, we're going to play the question game. And I'm like, okay.
They also play it again later. I forgot how much you hated the question game because we haven't had it in a while.
We haven't, which I think is great. I love not having
favorite
it.
Thing. I love this for me.
I think I love this journey for me. I think it has a lot to do with we're like in several series now. And so like the characters know each other and we don't have the question game so much.
That's true. We're back at the start.
Back at it, yeah. Anyway. So Lily asks Keller what his favorite color is. He says black. He asks her what her most prized possession is, and she says her vibrator, but then says she hasn't been able to use it because there's no privacy in the bedrooms. Okay, so that's where they have that conversation. Okay. She asks if he's ever had a girlfriend. He says yes, once when he was engaged, and they broke off because she left the country and he was devoted to his job. But he tells Lily that he doesn't miss her. Ouch.
I know.
He then gets bold and asks what her favorite part of the sex club was. She tells him the kind of control the men had over women, like the women were the most important thing in their lives. They cherished them, the trust between the men and women. She then asks whether that's what Keller likes about the side of sexual experiences. So it was kind of worded weirdly, but essentially she's like, is that control what you like about sex? And he tells her that he was born a protector, and when a woman puts her trust in his hands, that he would never break that trust, and he cherishes it.
But I'll break tables and chairs and punch walls right next to your head.
It's big Tam Tam energy.
You can trust me. What did you just say?
Big Tam Tam energy.
Oh, I was like, what's a Tim Tam? Is that a candy?
Tim Tams are candies.
I knew it. I knew Tim Tams are candies, and I was confused. It is big Tam Tam energy.
Yeah, they are Tim Tams. I didn't know if they were Tam Tams or Tim Tims or Tim Tams. They're Tim Tams.
Timmy Tuna.
Tammy Tooney. Wow. Okay, on to the question game. His last question is why she got her clit pierced. And she says she wanted to do it just for her, to have a little something extra when she's having fun because she loves sex so much. Cool. Lily then tries to put the moves on Keller in a very obvious way, and he tells her that sex is not happening between them. They both agree that it would be great because there's so much energy, but there's too many complications and unknowns. Keller tells her, quote, if I have one taste, I know I won't be able to stop. And I just like, this is where it starts reading incel-y to me, because he's like, no, I can't have you. You're too good for me. But in his internal monologue, he's like, she's so hot. My dick is so hard. I want to put my cock in her mouth. And it's just like, whoa, brother. Whoa.
It's, yeah, it's, I like his one-liners, but I hate him.
I know. Well, and that coupled with like I was engaged once, but I don't miss her. I'm like, then, wow, I need a whole lot more information about that, because that seems very heartless.
Because he is heartless.
Yeah. Oof.
He's just creepy and controlling.
Yeah.
But also is just a poor servant.
I'm just a poor servant boy.
Except in the bedroom where I'm your king. Okay.
Oh,
It was just, we'll get there. We're not there yet.
We'll get to it in part 2. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, that's not in this part?
No.
I didn't check the chapters on this. I literally just read to 50%. And I was like, cool,
I love it.
Done.
So
Damn, I want to talk about it.
They have some really boring training to cool off, and then they do another round of questions. But this is really like Lily just asking him questions, not the other way around, which I thought was weird.
She says that too. She's like, you don't get to ask me anything because you know me. No, he doesn't.
Oh, that's so weird, especially after what happens later.
Yeah,
That's
she
such a
straight
weird
up
thing
is
to
like,
say.
I'm going to ask you because you're a blank page.
But that's because he's a beige crayon, babe. You can ask him as many questions as you want. Keller's not going to grow a personality.
No.
So her first question is, what's one thing that he misses about his parents? And he tells her their hugs, not just for him, but for each other, because they truly loved each other. Lily shares that that's what she misses about her parents as well. She shares how her mother would squeeze her hand 3 times to tell her she loved her. Then they share how they both have dreams about their parents sometimes, and it feels cruel when they wake up and they're not there. They would both rather not dream about them at all, or dream at all, period, than have that possibility.
Woof. It got dark in here.
Right. Then she asks what the most embarrassing thing Keller's done in front of the king was, and he shares that before he took his role of secretary, he went through all of the roles of the castle so that he would understand them better and be better at his job of secretary. During his stint as a server, he spilled really hot soup on King Theo's lap and like scalded him.
There was no lasting damage.
There was no lasting damage. Well, we don't know that. He was done having kids.
That's
supposedly.
true. So.
And I think you said this in our debrief, but like, I think this was meant to make Keller more human, but it really misses the mark for me.
It misses the mark for me too.
So Lily's last question is how Keller would court somebody he's interested in. He says that he would introduce her to his poems, to which Lily exclaimed, "Great, so you're hot and sensitive. Fantastic." I'm not trying to knock anybody, but if somebody is trying to court me and the first thing they come at me with is a book of poems that they wrote, that has the same energy as somebody coming over to my house with their guitar and singing at me for an hour.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly where I was going. No,
Like,
thank
no,
you.
yeah, no, sure. Yeah, no, you're so good at this. Oh my God, I love your voice.
And it's always
Will
that
you get
one.
naked now?
Right? Like, can we move the show along? I cannot snap with my left hand. Move the show along.
Right. So they both admit that they had fun during the day, and they end with a hug. Great. That night, Keller has a night terror about the night his parents died in a fire. Lily wakes him up, and he tackles her to the bed, not really knowing where he is at first, but quickly comes to himself and is mortified that he might have hurt her. But really all he did was grab her roughly by the arm, so she's like literally fine. They sit on the edge of his bed, and she asks if he wants to talk about it, and he says no. So she asks if he wants to talk about something else, and he says no. She asks if he wants to lie down together, and he says no. Go back to bed. Big Leno
He doesn't
vibes.
want you.
Get out of my room. I'm embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed. And I can't close the door because it's broken.
Right. All right. Day 8, guys. We are getting close to day 10.
Jesus.
So Keller's back to being a fuddy-duddy, and they're having training in the regular interrogation room. Lily says that's not fair, and she thought they were finally getting somewhere. But Keller shouts at her, saying, quote, "Take a seat, shut your mouth, and just listen."
Okay. Once more, with feeling. She's a princess. You can't talk to her like that.
Yeah, if I was Lily, I would be like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to be taught by somebody else, or you can fucking watch your mouth. Nobody talks to me like that.
No, princess or not, you don't talk to her like that.
No, exactly. Dom or not, like, I'm not convinced that that's appropriate Dom behavior. Like,
it's not appropriate Dom behavior. That's what I'm saying. Like, we get this toxic thing of these Doms being written that are really just very aggressive, angry men.
Correct.
But then they're Doms. I'm like, that doesn't have to be.
No, it really doesn't have to be. Well, and it's like, it's, I think, wildly missing the nuanced point.
Yeah.
So anyway, later Lily talks with Lara again and says that Keller's avoiding her. Lara says that he's trying to protect himself and Lily should think about whether she's seriously considering staying before she does anything about that. The insinuation is that she could not let Keller withdraw if she was serious about staying. Just then, Lily gets a text from Keller with the informative saying he forgot to send it over that morning. Lara plays along that she's also read this, but we learn that it's about a fisherman in a town whose wife is cheating on him with another fisherman, which is tearing the town apart and might lead to a cod shortage. Cool. Lily thanks Lara for her perspective and time and gives her a hug before they head back to lunch. And this is where I'm like, okay, Lara is being presented as a confidant when she is staff. Worse, staff that you are not paying, girl.
No.
Not your friend.
No. But she had a friend. So because we talk about books where they don't have any friends, she had a friend. She just forgot about that friend immediately.
Yeah.
Now we have a new friend of convenience.
I wish that she was talking to Timmy Tuna more because that's like, she owns a business with him. Come on.
Right. Like, you're not getting updates on how your business is going, girl. Like, we're not going to have this conversation. No. Oh, okay. Okay.
So during lunch, Lily is given an etiquette lesson. She's got a cup of water balanced on her head, and the idea is that she should be able to eat her entire lunch without spilling a drop of water. During this exchange, Keller has a lot of fucking emotions, and when Lily goads him, he literally slams his fist on the table, startling Lily, and tells her to be quiet and not to swear. Lily eventually realizes that he's trying to gain control over her, to gain control over how he's feeling over last night, and so she plays along and goes into a submissive state, even using the words sir. And like, my problem with scenes like this is that she's still doing all of the emotional labor.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. Well, and even like the jumps that she made to come to this conclusion, I didn't buy either. I think he's just being controlling because that's who he is and he doesn't have any emotional capacity.
Right. Like, being controlling is cute when you are like sexually attracted to somebody, but like, you're not going to be sexually attracted like all of the time in a relationship. And that controlling thing is going to get old really fucking quick.
But to that point, she is into this. Like, he puts the cup of water on her head and is like, if you slouch, you're going to get wet. And her internal monologue is like, as if I'm not already. And I'm like, why though? Like, he's just yelling at you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. But somehow she's really good at the etiquette thing. And after lunch, she invites Keller for a walk. She intentionally wears no bra during this walk and a crop top.
Even though it's like subarctic outside, but okay.
Yeah. Yes.
It's fine.
Are you cold or not?
She's not.
It's fine. As they walk, she tries to goad Keller more, and he tells her, quote, "You don't care about this country, this role. You just care about falling into my bed." He tells her that she doesn't have to try to get under his skin because she's already there. That all he can think about is how much he wants to fuck her. So then Lily's like, so let's do that. But then Keller's like, oh, no. It's not my job to fuck you. It's my job to prepare you for queendom. And she's like, it can be both, dude. And he's like, no, once you're in my bed, I won't be able to let you out. And as queen, that can't be a thing because you can't be with somebody like me as a queen. And she's like, why are you making decisions for me?
Also, if she's going to be queen, she can do whatever she wants.
That's the thing. Oh my God. That's the fucking thing. But I think because they're treating her as like basically a child slave in the situation. Yeah. Like, they
a
don't
child.
see that. They're incapable of seeing that possibility.
No, and is this where they have that weird conversation when he's like, my blood's not the same as yours because I'm just a humble servant? And I'm like, who are you?
I think they get that somewhere, but that gets more and more pronounced. And like, even in a conversation that he's about to have with King Theo, like, there's a lot of like blood heritage related like verbiage that just gives me the ick.
Yeah, also, it also just doesn't jive with like who we're shown the king to be because he seems very liberal. So like, and then the conversation they're gonna have, does it even matter? Like, these are all just like self-imposed structures that Keller has put on himself.
Well, but I question that because it's like he's
was
getting it from somebody, right? Which like I have to assume is his parents, but his parents are getting it from somebody. So if King Theo's like super chill, then Queen Katla has to be the one bringing the hammer down, right? Like, they're not just like making this shit up.
That's true. That's true. It's got to come from somewhere. But then this conversation that we're going to talk about right now, or later, whatever conversation he has with the king later is wild. And I'm like, so where does he stand?
Yeah, I don't fucking know, man. And like, going back to like the whole like royal blood thing, like I've just never bought into the idea that because you were born into a specific family you're better, especially not probably inbred royal families. Like, that dog don't hunt with me. And so like for Keller to be like, your blood is better than mine and I'm just filthy, I'm like, okay, Voldemort, like, why don't you slowly roll a little bit?
Voldemort. Also, I don't think he believes that.
I think it plays into this like fantasy that he has, which is kind of gross.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that night, the king calls Keller in the middle of the night and tells him there's been another leak and that Lily's name has been dropped to the press. We learned that a man named Henrik has been stepping in for Keller while Keller's gone. So Keller asks whether the king suspects that Henrik could be the leak, but the king is like, no, he's not. Drop it. So the king goes on to tell Keller to give Lily the comfort that she needs in order to be able to like push her to learn this stuff and make a decision in their timeline. Theo is immediately onto the fact that Keller likes Lily and doesn't seem to have a problem with them being together. They both agree that she's not ready to move into the main palace yet, and so they will stay at Harrogate a little longer.
It felt gross to me that the king was like, just comfort her. Just give her the comfort she wants. I'm like, what are you telling him to do exactly?
Yeah, that was a weird conversation. I'm like, brother, are you telling him to like dick her down? Like, I just don't.
And that's where I was like, do you know how he's interpreting this? And is that really what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, like, fuck her, get her pregnant. She's got to stay. Like, sure.
Again, manipulate her. I mean, like,
yeah,
you're the king. You need this to happen.
I think it would be a much more interesting conversation if the king was like, yeah, manipulate the fuck out of her. And then that would be the central tension.
That would be far more interesting. And he's trying to avoid manipulating her.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're on day 9. And in the morning, Keller briefs Braimar about his conversation with the king. Lily overhears, but they deflect. When Lily asks what kind of torture training they have in store for her today and whether they can just have fun instead, Keller's like, yeah, sure, we can just have fun. What'd you have in mind? And so she's like, okay, well, I want to go to the hot springs and then I want to do some baking and then I want to play a national card game called Crazy Cots. And we can like talk about facts and figures while we do those things. And Keller's like, sure. So
sure, Jane.
Cue the hot spring scene. There's always one.
There's always a hot spring scene. As soon as he brought up the hot springs, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a masked ball later, too. Or in the next book.
Oh, I'm sure. So they walk to this hot springs, and it's weird because they show up, and Keller's like, okay, we went here. Now let's go home. And I'm like, how did you not think that you were going to not get in to the hot spring?
He's, like, shocked that she wants to swim.
Yeah. Because she's, like, immediately naked and getting into the water. And he's like, fuck. How did I not see this coming?
I don't know how you didn't see it coming either, bro. I saw it coming 100 pages ago.
I know. Who could have known? So they both end up getting into the hot water, and Lily tries to engage Keller sexually, but he again tells her that this is a bad idea, and they're not doing that. Somehow, Lily gets him to agree to describing her breasts with a different adjective for every single bit of etiquette that she can, like, yammer off correctly. And so they do that. And as he's like talking about her boobs, he's touching her too. But like nothing more happens.
It's super cockblocky.
It's super cockblocky. And just like, okay, gentle listener, you have to believe me when I say, when I say it out loud, I hear how creepy this scene is. But in the moment, it works.
In the moment, it's pretty hot.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about a lot of this book.
Yes, exactly. On the face of it, it's creepy, but in the moment, it scratches the itch.
Yeah. Who's this? Meghan Quinn does deliver these. And that's what I was saying earlier in the debrief. I'm like, I'm here for the chemistry. I just don't like them. But like,
yeah,
I'm also into it.
Right. I'm here for the physical chemistry when they give in to their sexual desires.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good way to phrase it.
So they go back to the crumbling palace and they start to cook. And even though they're focused on baking, there's a lot of touching going on. It's like Keller won't have sex, but once the clothes are back on, he's much more comfortable and he's fine with being a little bit possessive. Which feels to me like a little gaslighty and control-y.
It's super gaslighty. Well, and then we get that scene later that they like basically have sex. And then he won't kiss her later. And I'm like, okay. It's so confusing. It's so gaslighty. Which is not in this part, so you can cut that out. But like,
right.
What?
But like, what are you, a paid hooker? Like, you're not gonna kiss? Okay.
I don't kiss. We can do anything else, but we cannot kiss.
I only kiss people I love, and I haven't loved since the spring of 1948. Okay. Anyway, as they bake, Lily realizes that she's made this cake before. It's the vinaitorte that I mentioned earlier. Specifically, her mother would make it every single holiday. And then they talk about a soup that her mother would also make in brown crocks. And this all feels very contrived. But, like, Lily realizes that her culture isn't so far away, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I get it.
The thing about the soup was that, like, they have this part where they finish each other's sandwiches, right? And she's like, oh, she would sprinkle these little... And then he finishes the sentence and says, oyster crackers on top. And I'm like, oyster crackers is, like, not the thing that I would have said. Because it just feels like a very American, like, recently evolved... Like, how is that a tradition kind of thing?
No. I think they finish each other's sandwiches. And she used to serve it in these. And he's like, brown crocs like this. And he just, like,
yes,
creates one out of nothing.
Yes, I was just like, I hate this. 9. We're on day 9. Day 9. I can't emphasize this enough. We're on day fucking 9.
Gentle reader. Just wait till day 11. Question mark.
So during this discussion, we're seeing it from Keller's perspective, and all he wants to do is comfort Lily and also fuck her, but realizes that he can't and says that it's because his blood is not royal.
I'm not related to you, so we can't have sex. That's the vibe I got
Darn.
every time he said it.
So they eat dinner later, and Lily excuses herself from playing Crazy Cards because she's still feeling in her feels and wants to turn in early. She asks Keller if they could go up to the room and talk, and so they do, and they sit on her bed and cuddle. I guess that's fine.
I can only imagine every time Lily's like, can we go to my room and talk? And Keller's like, okay. That Laura and Braimar are just like, bow, chicka, wow, wow.
I know.
Every time.
I know. Like, if it were James and I and we were stuck in the house with these insufferable people, every time they would go upstairs, I would just look at him and be like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then, like, later, I think it's in the next part, Brimar's like, you only care because you're fucking her. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you cannot blame this man for thinking that.
You guys have no chill.
You have no chill, and it's a very small house.
Yeah. It's a very small, crumbling castle. Okay, but also, like, I hate this love bombing where he's like, we can't be together, but we can snuggle while we talk about your feelings. Like, no, girl. Sit across the fucking room. Better yet, go outside and call her on the phone.
Yeah, don't go to her bedroom.
Yeah.
It is love bombing.
So as they snuggle, she tells him about all of the other things that she's realizing about her childhood are clearly from Torskethorpe. Then she says this weird thing, and this is why I've been keeping track of the days. She says, quote, "I just feel so alone. If it weren't for you, Keller, I'd be lost. It means so much to me that you're taking your time with me, that you're patient, and although sometimes you lose your temper, you continue to try to teach me and show you what my life could be." End quote. It just doesn't feel like they're that close.
Also, a few things here. He's not taking his time with you. He's paid to be here. He has to be here, which he reminds you of daily. He isn't patient at all. He's broken multiple things around you because he is impatient.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not trying to show you what your life could be. He's trying to show you what your life will be should you take the throne.
Right. Well, and I don't understand how she feels less alone with him because he's done nothing but alienate her. Like, there's not a true emotional bonding there. If anything, she's had more of like an experience of being seen with Lara.
I agree. It is only with Lara that I feel like there is any of this not feeling so alone because he hasn't done anything to engender this like trust or safety other than being basically a bodyguard while simultaneously being the only threat also.
Well, and not really. Yeah. It just reminds me of like, oh, who would protect us if men weren't around? And it's like, protect us from what? Keller, you're the problem here.
You're the problem.
Like, come on. And I just don't find him to be particularly compelling as a character because he doesn't have a good use, right? Like, he's at once saying, oh, I'm in charge of training you. You're not particularly good at training. He's like, oh, but I'm also trained as being a bodyguard. Then why do you need 2 other fucking bodyguards? Like, Keller, it should be literally anybody else on the planet that's better at those 2 things than you.
Yeah.
Go back to doing your job with the king.
Which I'm still unclear what that was because clearly he doesn't need you. Also.
So Lily then asks him if in an alternate reality where she grew up in Torskethorpe, if they would have known each other. And he says they would, but they wouldn't be friends. He would just pine for her from afar. And she pushes the issue and says, well, what if I forced you to be my friend and to kiss me and stuff? And he's like, well, I would do that, but I wouldn't go further than that because it would be my duty not to. Like, you're not for me. They then both admit that even if Lily goes back to Miami, neither of them would be able to truly have a clean break from the other. And I'm like, you don't know each other.
It's been 9 days, most of which you were fighting.
Or chucking furniture across the room. You're not going to sit here and convince me that Keller is like more interesting, hot, whatever than like the guys she's dated in Miami.
Yeah, no, there's no way. Because his only personality is rage.
Or like a Torskethorpe culture queen or whatever.
Culture queen. That's why he has this job, because he clearly has like a photographic memory and is the only one who cares about the history of COD.
Okay, but that's another good question. Like, where are you getting this information from? It's not like he goes into that room with a stack of books or even a computer. He's just literally there by his own self with his own fucking brain talking ad nauseum about Torskethorpe stuff. And I'm like, woof.
It's wild.
It's a wild experience.
It's wild.
So Lily falls asleep on him like that, and in the middle of the night, Keller tries to go back to his room. But they're so close, and he's so horny that it's really hard for both of them. He gets really close to kissing her, and his hand is like on her upper side, almost to like her under boob, and that's when he's like, I can't, I'm sorry. She tells him that she understands, but he doesn't move, and then his hand like moves up further and then starts fondling her boob, and she's like, okay, cool, let's do this. And he's like, no, I can't, as he's still touching her boob, and then finally moves away, and she's like, okay, cool, you should probably leave. But before he does, she's like, wait, can you leave your shirt? And immediately takes off her shirt to wear it. So he helps her into his shirt. But as he's doing this, he's like touching the side of her boob and like all of this stuff. And then he admits that seeing her in his shirt is like messing with his head. And I'm like, this guy is so fucking toxic.
He's super toxic. And he really has a thing for side boobs, which is fine. But the whole like, we can't do this. Okay, cool, we're going to do this. We can't do this. Okay, cool, we're going to do this. We can't do this. I can't.
But okay, but I think I was trying to like Because when I was reading it, I was like, this is disgusting. And I couldn't really put a finger on why, but I talking about it now, as usually happens, I know why. It's because he's controlling the consent 100%. Like,
yeah,
they're only together on his terms.
That's where it feels rapey. And then the scene later that we're not going to get to, I don't think in this part, it feels rapey on both sides.
Yeah, totally.
Neither of them actually have consent for any of this, at least not at the same time.
Exactly.
Also, the leave your shirt and then he comes over and dresses her. I was kind of into that.
I was too, and then it just like he just was touching
but then he ruins
her in a
it.
weird way. I'm just like,
I
oh God.
I know. It's very confusing.
So then Keller pushes Lily back onto the bed and says that he wants to do naughty things to her. And she's like, I want those naughty things to happen. And he's like, you can't handle the naughty things I want to do. And they just go back and forth like this. And it just feels like Keller has a lot of bravado here that's like not really being followed up with. He's just like, I'm super good in bed. I'm like, no, you're not, pussy. Nut up or shut up.
I don't believe he is good in bed, and we haven't been shown that he's good in bed yet.
Nope.
We haven't shown any pleasure reciprocated, honestly.
No.
At least as far as I read. It's the whole thing like, you're not going to like being my wife. You're not going to like being in my bed. Get out of here.
Get out of here. But then he yet again pushes off and says he's going to go to bed and that she shouldn't follow him, and she doesn't. But the last exchange goes like this. He says, don't follow me. I can see it in your eyes that you want to. What just happened? It stays here. And then Lily says, nothing even happened. And Keller says, more than you think. I can't.
I think, is this part from Keller's perspective? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think it was in here. I made a note that editing got a little weird because, like, usually the internal monologues are in italics, like most books. But there's, like, 4 lines. And the first one is, like, his internal monologue, like, you don't want me, Lily, blah, blah, blah. Then the next 2 lines are not in italics, but still internal monologue. And the 4th line is back in italics. And I was like, what is happening? Who are you talking to?
I started reading so fast that I, like, was missing what was said out loud and what wasn't.
Yeah, and it's confusing because that's the thing I said in the prologue is the breaking the fourth wall thing. Like, you're talking directly to me as the reader, but if your editing isn't good, it sounds like you're talking to Lily.
Correct. Yes.
Which is confusing because you're saying things that sound like edited as if you're saying them to her, but then she doesn't know that information.
Right. And then she acts like she doesn't know that information later, and you're like, wait a minute, didn't we just talk about this?
Right, when we didn't. I think it just was an editing problem.
Yeah. So the day 10 has arrived, and this is the last day for this part. We start with the next informative, which is still talking about the love triangle in the fishing town. We then see Lara and Lily practicing the specific type of embroidery that Lily's mother, Margaret, was good at. It turns out that Lily is kind of a natural, and we get a TLDR recap of the morning, but we really didn't need that either. Like, I don't need to spend like, I thought we were, oh, great, later in the day. No, we still got a recap of the morning.
Yep. Every single second you get to see.
Yeah. They talk about Margaret and how when she died, people lined up at the palace and gave, like, tons of flowers. And Lara says that pride is a funny thing in reference to Margaret and the Queen. That people in the country are very prideful, almost to a fault. Lily says that she can see that in them as well, and Keller seems to take that as a pointed remark. They relate this back to Margaret and her mother because they were both too prideful to mend the bridge, which is why Margaret only ever talked to King Theo.
It's also so weird that, like, people are lining the streets after she died with flowers, but no one called Lily or checked on her.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so you had this, like, spat with Margaret. Like, you couldn't follow up with your fucking granddaughter? Like,
yeah.
That's why I feel like, and I don't want this to happen, but I just have this bad feeling that they're going to make Queen Katla just, like, a total bitch.
Yeah, which is going to be such a cop-out.
Yeah. So this is again when Lily says that she's angry because she believed for her entire life that she didn't have any other family outside of her parents, and that there was even so much time after her parents died and now, and she doesn't understand why she was left in the dark.
Yeah, girl, same.
Yeah, and we never get an answer to this because she gets a text from Timmy Tuna in that moment saying that she's famous. He sends her an article about specifically her and how she was from Miami with the bikini truck, blah, blah, and now she's a princess. This prompts Keller to call the king and fill him in. During this conversation, they agree that Lily should still stay at the rundown Harrogate Palace, even though privacy is not going to happen for her anymore. Basically, everybody knows her name, where she came from, etc. They push Lily on whether she's made a decision about whether she'll stay. And she's like, well, I feel like there's a whole part of this being royal thing that I need to experience like outside of Harrogate, and I can't make a decision without that. So they agree that they'll spend a little bit more time there while they prepare statements to the press and a welcome ceremony so that it doesn't feel like they're rushing to welcome Lily.
You are, though.
You are, though. Why didn't you have this planned? Like,
You had no statement?
Why?
It's a horribly run country.
Truly. But at that point, when all of that is ready, then they'll take her to the main castle and the main palace and introduce her.
The cattle and the passel.
Before they hang up, Lily asks King Theo if he'll show her the embroidery pieces that he has from her mother. He tells her that he will show her those as well as her mother's old room and possessions. When they hang up with the king, Braimar is mad because he sees himself as the head of security and thinks that the decision that Keller and the king made is reckless and puts them all in danger. He seems to think that it won't be long before people guess where they are and start coming to Harrogate to see Lily.
Yeah.
The rest of the day is tense because of this fight, and later that night, Lily goes to check on Keller and see if he's okay, but he essentially stonewalls her again. He tells her that he's busy. He tells her that he's trying to do what's best for her by pushing her away, and he insists that he knows her. But she throws back that if he did know her, he would know that she doesn't give a flying fuck about his status or how rich he is, and that alone tells her that he doesn't know anything about her. And for me, I'm like, of course he doesn't know you because you've known each other for less than 2 weeks. I'm shocked.
It's been 9.5 days.
That night, in the middle of the night, a large crash wakes the entire castle. Keller grabs Lily and hides her under the bed with himself as a human shield while Lara and Braimar clear the rest of the castle. When they do so, they realize that it was just a window that was forced open by the wind and shattered. Keller tells Lily to go back to sleep, but Lily says that she can't because adrenaline is coursing through her body. So she ends up straddling Keller on a chair that he's sitting on.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like this.
She tells him, quote, "Never in my life have I ever had someone treat me the way you do. You're the knight I never knew I needed. You offer me safety and solace. Just being in your arms makes me feel more comfortable than anywhere else on this planet," end quote. And my note here is just, this is so fucking crazy. Like,
it's insane.
Are you fucking kidding me?
She's never been in a healthy relationship.
The love bomb. This isn't a healthy relationship. Are you fucking kidding?
That's what I'm saying. She's never been in one, ever,
Yeah.
including this one.
She goes on to say, quote, "You make me whole, Keller. You make me feel safe," end quote. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? How does he make you feel? How? So this ends up in them dry humping and then having basically a mutual masturbation session where Keller rubs his dick on her until they both come. Cool. Afterwards, he cleans her up and she loves the aftercare and he finally kisses her.
It's barely aftercare.
She asks him to stay and he says, "If I stay, I'm going to fuck you." And that would be going too far and that they've already gone too far. And though she's upset, she's like, okay, that's fine. Go back to bed. And then he kisses her once more goodnight before going to his room. And that's where we're going to end part 1, guys.
It's so hot and cold. Because spoiler alerts, the next chapter, he's back to ignoring her.
Oh my God. Just like, I really wish that she was having more of a conversation with Timmy Tuna, who knows her, because I feel like he would be the sassy gay friend that's just like, girl, what?
Why are you still in the bed?
Like, you need some perspective. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, tune in 2 weeks from now when we finish the book and we'll do our ratings. And we'll see where this goes.
I have no idea what my rating is at this point. Like,
I don't either, because like in the reading of it, I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I'm highly entertained.
Talking about it, I'm just like, this is a fucking wild experience.
Because it's insanity. It's insanity.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense. The characters are not likable. But I'm also really here for it.
Yeah. It's trashy. It's trashy for sure.
It's very trashy. It's fanficky for sure. I mean, it is. It's Princess Diaries fanfic.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, fam. That's where we're going to end part 1. Those are our thoughts on part 1 of Royally Not Ready by Meghan Quinn. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Let us know what you think on the socials. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Goodreads at Spice Traders Pod. And if you like our podcast and want more, consider joining our Patreon, where we release Patreon exclusive episodes on our off weeks. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. But until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.